Heading over to Kosovo now. On Thursday in Brussels, Serbian President Aleksandar Vucic and Kosovo's Prime Minister Albin Kurti met, flanked by EU stakeholders. The meeting came following a total breakdown in the dialogue process over the last few months due to flaring tensions in northern Kosovo between Albanians and ethnic Serbs. The meeting hoped to get things back on track, but what went down? I'm joined online today by Federica Wolk, the European Parliamentary Assistant and a Public and European Affairs expert. She has a keen interest in Kosovo and Serbia relations and is very active on Twitter talking about all these issues related to the region. Federica, good afternoon and thank you so much for joining me on Inside Albania.
Good afternoon and thank you.
So first of all, can you explain what do we know about the meeting that took place last night between Vucic and Kurti? What was the outcome, if any?
This is a very good question. In fact, there was no outcome. And some might think that it's a bad thing, but in the end, I personally think it's a good thing because apparently it was Prime Minister Kurti who declined the offer of the EU and Serbia, but the offer was basically to start with the Association of Serbian Municipalities in Kosovo and to ignore the other steps or to talk later about the other steps. And personally, I think it would have been a mistake to agree to this because it would have basically imposed conditions on Kosovo without having any kind of assurance that Serbia will do anything else.
And this is a very important point because, Vucic domestically has repeatedly said, he's never going to recognize Kosovo. And when that is the ultimate outcome of the normalization and dialogue process, I think Kurti's right to be a bit hesitant in this. Now, we know the official line from the European Commission, which in my view has been quite harsh towards Kosovo. Parliament seems to be a bit fairer, but you are there in the thick of it, in the corridors of Brussels, and I'm wondering, what is the general feeling around the dialogue process? Do people see a way forward? Do they really think that Kosovo is mainly to blame for these recent tensions? Is there any real hope of things moving forward anytime soon?
To be honest, I think that the knowledge of what is really going on the ground is really not existent. I'm not working directly on these topics, but I have this interest from a personal side, let's say. But I know that many people don't even know what is really going on in Kosovo or in Serbia. And I think that this is the main problem here. If people would be more informed, if people would know concretely what happens, then this would change the ideas also on how to deal with it. Because, for example, when yesterday PM Kurti published the documents of the meeting, he was the only one doing it, by the way. He showed that the proposal that actually was on the table on Kosovo's side was a very good one because it really included normalization and de-escalation in different steps. And yeah, then you can see that there was actually no real reason to say no to Kosovo's proposal.
I read a comment from Borrell as well. He had said, I believe it was Borrell, if it was Lajčák, I do apologize, but it was basically, regarding the elections that they want to be held again in the north. Over the summer, there's been no progress. There's been no effort to de-escalate the tensions around the elections. And I was thinking, yeah, but in June, Kurti said, we're going to start the process to hold elections after the summer. He set up a working group. They started creating this framework for voting to remove the mayors if the population wishes, and then from there, how the elections were held. I was thinking, you can't just call an election out of thin air, in the middle of the summer holidays. And I think that sort of ties into what you said, that people maybe don't really understand what's going on. And also historically as well, maybe they don't really understand where this whole problem came from. Now, my last question to you, are you hopeful? Do you see a way forward? After yesterday's meeting, Josep Borrell said, it's essentially EU membership for both countries that's hanging in the balance here.
unluckily, I'm not so positive at the moment because we see how the stance is also of the EU. But I truly believe that it is possible to come to normalization only if Serbia agrees to recognize Kosovo, at least in part. I don't know how to say, but at least in some steps, and maybe not a full recognition, but at least to recognize that Kosovo.
Like allowing it to join international organizations as a country, etc., like this sort of indirect way, for example.
But if this doesn't happen, personally, I totally agree with the stance of Kosovo that says, no, we cannot agree to something in which we need to give hundreds and Serbia does not give anything because it does not make any sense. Moreover, there is also the issue of Albanians in Serbia, which is coming out again very abruptly. And I think that this is also a point that should be discussed. Like, why should Serbs in Kosovo have this association if Albanians in Serbia also don't have good conditions and are also not respected?
You're completely right, and that's something I'm going to talk about a bit later in the show. Federica, thank you very much for your insight and your perspective, and I share your sort of disappointment in the outcome of yesterday, but I do have that shred of hope that things will improve. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.